Morning, well, afternoon or evening, whenever it is. Before I start, I'd just like to say a massive thanks to those of you that have either subscribed to my channel or click like at the end of the videos. I'm not doing this to make money out of YouTube. It's never going to happen. My channel's far too small and too niche for that. But I do it to try and give some help and encouragement to those of you that are restoring your own cars, and hopefully it's useful for that. Right, good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching, folks. It's another bitterly cold day, but I've managed to get a bit of warmth in the workshop and we'll carry on. I picked up my nuts and bolts last night, so I bolted the bonnet catches on, and I've clamped the bonnet down into place. Now, at the moment, the gaps are all over the place. So you can see the door's sticking out on that side. The gaps, not bad. It's a little bit tight at the top and a little bit small at the bottom. Sorry, a little bit big at the bottom. And there's a big gap there on the door, so it's nowhere near right. And this side, the door gap is way too big. It's got to close up at least half of that, but at least I can see now that the bonnet's on. Now the next thing I'm going to do is fit the sills. These are important as well because you need to get a nice straight edge along the bottom of the door to the sills, and they also give you a good clue if your door is too far in or too far out. So I think both sides I've done repairs, so half of my holes for the sills are missing. Now, what I find every time with these Rig Pro sills is that this part here isn't the same as an original. This is an original sill, and I've got a pair of Repro sills which came with a load of spares that I bought. Now, two things about the Repro sills. The first one is this bit isn't right, and the second bit is there's a little bit more of a crease here than these are round. These are round, these have got a little bit of a crease here. You can get away with that. But if you check these, on this one, the lip is 10mm, and this bit here is dead flat. If you look on the Repro one, the lip is 14mm, and also this bit here is bent upwards. I think it's from part of where they pressed them, but this also lifts it up to 20mm total, whereas this one is 10mm total. So this won't fit under the front of the sill step because it's pushing the sill down. So you need to trim a bit off this lip, and you need to try and beat that flat as well. Having turned them upside down, you can see it a lot clearer. You can see that lip there. That needs to be flat, like this one. So you need to flatten this out and then possibly trim a bit off here, but we'll flatten this out first. Now, with a block of wood and a hammer, I've managed to beat this back down flat. It's not easy because it's pretty strong, but I've managed to get it a lot flatter than it was. Now I've still got 14mm lip, nearly 15mm lip on there, whereas I've only got a 10-11mm lip on there. So I need to take 3 or 4mm off this. So I'll get the grinder on it and I'll take a little bit of lip off. This is why you should always check before you paint anything. Right, I think I've got that down to 10 mil. Yep, bang on. Now we're a bit high there, 10 mil there. I think that's because that dips down a bit. We'll try it on the car and see if it fits. The other problem with the repro seals is the tabs aren't long enough. I don't know why they make them so short. On an original seal, that tab is about 70 mil long. On a repro one, they're only about 45 mil long. So they're about 25 mil short, which means you can see where the hole is here. It's right up near the end of the tab. 45 mil doesn't take you anywhere near where the hole should be. So if you try and use these holes, you're going to pull the sill way too far underneath the car. Now you've got two choices. You can either cut these tabs off and weld some new ones on, or weld an extension bit onto these tabs, which is probably the quickest. But it's unnecessary. Why don't they just make the tabs the right length to start with? The other problem with these sills is the repro ones aren't the same length as the original ones. If you come to the back, and I just get the back to line up perfectly, you come to the front and there's about a 3 mil, maybe 4 mil gap there. So these sills are 3-4 mil short on the front edge because everything else lines up. You can see here, there's a much bigger bit here than there is here. So they are short, which means you can end up with a step like that, which is not very good. I know the bonnet's got to go back, but 3 mil is quite a bit to get back again. So you can never get them absolutely perfectly lined up with the edge of the bonnet. It's one of those things really you have to live with. I'm not cutting the sills and lengthening them by 3 mil. That's a bit of a waste of time. If I was doing concours, I'd have to do it, but I'm not doing it on this one. I'll just try and get the bonnet back as far as I can so it lines up. Another problem I've discovered is that this seal, which was supplied with the mounting clips for it, these are wrong. If you look at these, they are about, when you clip them on, they're about 3 mil higher than the top of the panel, which means they stop the panel from going right up against the underneath of the door shut. What you should have is this type of clip, which is a half one, same clip but half the top bit's missing, and that clips on nicely, and also they float easier, so they're easier to get the screw in. They don't fall off, but they float about easier, so you can get the screw in easier, and they fit tight to the top of the panel. So you need this type of clip, not this type, which is wrong. All my tab extensions are welded on. I've reshaped the top of the left-hand sill as well, and I've put all my clips on, so they're ready to go back on. Well, this job is a perfect example of why I don't do work for customers anymore. I started at about 10 o'clock-ish. It's now 3:15, I've had maybe a 20-minute break, so I've spent 5 hours fitting 2 sills. And the customer will say, what do you mean it's taken 5 hours and cost me £200 to fit 2 sills? They only screw on. Yeah, I've heard that before. Now, the one thing that you can see by me putting the sills on is whereas the bonnet looked like it was in, it isn't. It's the door that's out, because it's out on the sill as well. So that door needs to go in. This bonnet does need a slight tweak on this back corner. It's pushed in a little bit. That wants pulling out level to the sill, and then the door wants to go in level to the sill, and it'll all fit perfectly. The gap's lovely along the bottom of this one. Happy with that, it's a good gap. I've still got to bolt the back end of the sill up, and I've got to put the straps on underneath. But for the moment, they're not too bad at all. This door, as we said earlier, wants to go back a couple of mil, and it wants to come, I don't know now, I've mounted the sill, the gap's pretty good. I think it does want to come up 2 mil at the back, because the lines aren't perfectly flat. So that door just wants a little tweak that way, and then the next job will be sorting the bonnet out. So from back here, the gap doesn't look too bad, but when you get close, it's massive. I can almost stick a finger in it. So the job for tomorrow is I'll just put the other couple of fittings in the sills, and then we'll loosen the bonnet off on the frame, and then we'll give the bonnet a little move back and see how well we can get it to fit. But I'm quite confident, a little bit of jiggling, and it'll all line up really nicely. We'll see how tomorrow gets on. And it's morning again. And here we are. Right, so the plan today is to, first of all, adjust the doors, just get the gaps a little bit, get this line straight, get the gap just a couple of mil tighter. Same on the other side. I want to bring this door back just a mil or two and get the lines right. And on the front, the door's sticking out too far, so I need to get that to go back in, which I should be able to do on the hinge. And it's also too far out at the back, so taking the front in will line the whole door up. Once I've done that, I'm then going to move on to trying to sort the bonnet out. So that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. I'll start by doing the adjustments on this door. So on the hinges, you have 2 ways of adjusting. You've got if I can get the camera in there, you've got the bolts here, which will give you forwards and backwards and up and down adjustment. And you've got the bolts on the door side of the hinge, which also give you a tiny bit of up and down adjustment, but they also give you in and out adjustment. So if you loosen these off, loosen these ones off, you can move the door in and out. Now, before you start, open the door up and just loosen off the 2 screws, one here and one down there. You can't get at those with the door closed, so just crack them off. Don't undo them, because they can jam against this hinge if you undo them too far. So just loosen them off so that the door will move. Now this counts whether you're assembling a car, whether you bought a car where the doors don't fit properly. You can do all these adjustments to make your doors fit right. So the aim is going to be to close this gap up just a tiny, tiny little bit and lift the back of the door up slightly so that it lines up properly on these lines. Make sure you've got a decent gap here. When you clamp the hood down, it does tend to pull the windscreen aperture back slightly. It's just the way the tires are built. So you want a decent gap here so that when the hood's tight, it doesn't pull the bulkhead back against the door. Okay, so I'm reasonably happy with that. I've literally moved it back about a millimetre or so. I've got my bottom line dead right. The shut line is dead right that way. The line at the bottom is pretty even. And I've still got my gap at the top here. So I'm reasonably happy with that. That's that one done. Now I've got to do the other side and then I can start messing about with the bonnet. Okay, I've got this door adjusted as well now. I've closed the gap up, quite happy with that at the back. I've got a little gap here at the front. It's level, the lines are now level. So I just put some little plastic spacers in to hold it where I wanted it to be while I was adjusting it. So now the next bit is to get the bonnet to fit. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to release all the bonnet bolts, 2 up here, 2 sets down here, and this one at the bottom. This will allow me to move the bonnet on the hoop. Now the thing that sets the adjustment on all the bonnet is the adjuster down here. Now when you adjust this, it pulls the bonnet back and lifts it up, or pushes it forward, but also pushes it down at the front. Now, I've not touched this adjuster and the bonnet fitted perfectly beforehand. So there's no reason why it shouldn't fit perfectly again. So the trick is to try and adjust it on the hoop, not with this, because it did fit perfectly before and I've done nothing to it other than a couple of very small weld repairs. So I've done nothing to alter the shape of the bonnet. So hopefully if I loosen all the bolts off, I should be able to give it a wiggle and get it to fit. The one thing with these cars is you have to do all these adjustments with the wheels on the ground. We all know the minute you jack them up, the door gaps move, the bonnet gaps move, so you've got to do them with the car sitting on the ground. I've tried it before with axle stands directly underneath the chassis in line with the wheels, but they work better if you've got the car on the ground. Two other things while you're setting the bonnet up. Take the retainers off, because these will stop you getting your adjustment, and just loosen off the bonnet cones so they can find their own place, so they can move about. I've just put a little seat under the front of the bonnet so it stops it tipping too far forward. Now I've taken the retainers off. Okay, that's not looking bad at all. Got the gap to close up a lot. Now, that's looking much better. I've got a decent sized gap down here. It's, I don't know, a couple of mil too big. I'd like it to close up another couple of millimetre. From a distance, it doesn't look bad, but I'd be happy if I could just get another couple of mil on it. The gap's fine across the top of the bulkhead. This side, pretty good. The gap's not quite square. It opens up, so the bonnet on this side wants just lifting very slightly. To alter that gap. Yeah, it's getting there. It's still not perfect, but it is getting there. Now, as I'm on my own and I haven't got anybody to help me, I've put a block of wood and a jack underneath the front of the bonnet. And if I jack it up slightly, you should be able to see in here, you can see the bonnet move against the, just moving down here. You can see the bonnet sliding. So I've lifted the bonnet very slightly. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, that's getting better. That's a straighter gap. It's not perfect yet. Could be that the bonnet cone wants to go down a tiny bit because this is high. So I might lock it off where it is and then release the bonnet cone. I'm still struggling to get this gap to close up as much as I want. It's way too big. Now, been around measuring everything, and it's hard to show with the tape, but if I show you this way, if you look down here at this gap there, there's not much of a gap. If you look at this one, there's a big gap. Now the bonnet is the same height off the crossbar, but it's further back this side than it is this side, and it won't go on the hoop. So the only way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have to move the adjuster. So I'm going to have to get at this adjuster here and just wind it back slightly. Now, when you make an adjustment on one side, it has an effect on the other side, only marginally, but as you wind this side back, it will slightly open up the gap on the other side. So you have to fiddle with them and see. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to play with the adjusters, but I think I'm going to get it right. And that's it. Got my gap on that side. That's about as perfect as I've ever seen on one. You don't want them any tighter, otherwise the doors start catching, and there's a couple of mil clearance there, which is what you want. Otherwise the doors start catching and the bonnet will start catching. But that all lines up nicely. I'm happy with that side. Now this side, gap's good. Yeah, it's pretty good actually. It just wants lifting very slightly here, which means it wants moving on the hoop. So I'll just put the block of wood under that, lift that very slightly, then I'll lock that off. Right, I've locked off the 2 bolts at the front and the 2 pairs that attach to the hoop over the wheel arch. So now I've just got the top ones to do.
And that I'm happy with, apart from the short sill down there. I think I'm going to have to put the old sills back on. That 4mm makes all the difference to the lineup, and I really don't like that. So, but the gap's good. I'm happy with the gap. The fit's fine this way. It needs some new bonnet cones. I'm going to get on the internet in a second and order some. I have got a pair somewhere, but I can't find them. And the same on this side. Gap's good. It needs a bonnet cone again, and it's slightly in on the door, but it's only a little bit. Might have to tweak it here to get it out, or maybe a new bonnet cone will locate it better. But the gap's all good. The sill gap's good. The gap down the door is beautiful. So I'm really happy with that. That fits well. So it just shows you a bit of jiggling around and you can get it all to fit. So yeah, really pleased with that. That's going to be it for today. I've got to go and give my grandson a driving lesson. His test's coming up next week. While I'm on, I've had a messaging today with an old friend of mine called Phil, who I honestly haven't spoken to for 45 years. Phil, if you're watching, it was really nice to hear from you, and hope to chat again soon. Right, thanks for watching, folks. See you on the next one.